Good morning. We are beginning today with the Devi Bhagavata Purana, Book 9, Chapter 17, beginning the story of Tulsi Devi. So we had gone through the lineage of several great devotees leading up to Dharmadvaja. And Dharmadvaja's daughter is Tulsi. Sri Narayana said, O Narada, the wife of Dharmadvaja was named Madhavi. Going to the Gandhamadana mountain, she began to enjoy with great gladness the pleasures with the Raja Dharmadvaja. Their bed was prepared, strewn with flowers and scented with sandal paste, in some house on Gandhamadana mountain. She smeared all over her body with sandal paste. The flowers and cool breeze in contact with the sweet scent of sandal paste began to cool their bodies. Madhavi was the jewel amongst women. Her whole body was very elegant, and besides, it was adorned all over with jewel ornaments, being a queen. As she was humorous, so the Raja too was very expert in comedy. It seemed as if the Creator created especially for Dharmadvaja the humorous Lady Madhavi, expert in amorous affairs. Indeed, both of them were skilled in amorous sports. So neither of them liked to desist from amorous enjoyments. 100 divine years passed in this way, day and night passing unnoticed. So that's 360 times that many Earth years. The Raja then got back his consciousness and desisted from his amorous embraces, but the lustful woman Madhavi still did not find herself satisfied. However, by the Deva's influence, she became pregnant and remained pregnant for 100 years. In her womb, there was the avatar of Lakshmi, and her body's luster increased day by day. Then, on an auspicious day, on an auspicious moment, auspicious yoga, auspicious lagna, auspicious amsha, and on an auspicious combination of planetary rulers and their houses, so perfect Jyotish, she delivered on the full moon night of the month of Kartika one beautiful daughter, the Ansha Avatara of Lakshmi. The face of the baby looked like the autumnal moon. Her two eyes resembled autumnal lotuses, and her upper and lower lips looked beautiful like ripe bimba fruits. The daughter began, no sooner she was born, to look around on all sides of the lying-in room. The palm and lower part of her feet were red. Her navel was deep, and below it were 3 wrinkles. Her loins were circular. Her body was hot in the winter and cold in the summer, and pleasant to touch. The hair on her head hung like the roots of the fig tree. So in other words, like pleasantly wavy. Her color was bright like champaka. She was a jewel amongst women, referring, of course, to when she grew up. Neither men nor women can compare her beauty. The holy wise men named her Tulasi, recognizing that this was the name inherent to her soul, the name that she had had before. As soon as she was born, she looked of the female sex full in every way. In other words, she matured very rapidly. Though prevented repeatedly by all, she went, finally, to the forest of Badari to practice tapasya. So the forest of Badari is a famous forest of Badarikashrama, a valley in the Himalayas today called, it remains extremely famous and a major pilgrimage site. Today, one of the most major pilgrimage sites in all of India. Today it's called Badrinath. So she went to the forest of Badri for practicing tapasya. There she practiced hard tapasya for 1 lakh divine years. Her main object was to get Narayana for her husband. In summer, she practiced Panchatapa, the Panchatapa tapa, or um, it's also called Panchagni Tapasya, in which you light four big hot bonfires around you on four sides, the sun being the fifth fire overhead. In the winter, she remained in water, and in the rainy season, she remained in the open air and endured the showers of the rain for 20,000 years. She passed away thus her time in eating fruits and water. Then, for 30,000 years, she subsisted only on the leaves of trees. When the 40,000th year came, she subsisted only on air, and her body became thinner and thinner day by day. Then, for 10,000 years afterwards, she ceased to consume anything whatsoever, did not even inhale, and without any aim stood on only one leg. At this time, the lotus-born Brahma, seeing this, appeared there to grant her boons. On seeing him, Tulasi immediately bowed down to Brahma, the four-faced one riding on his vehicle, the swan. He then addressed her and said, O Tulasi, ask any boon that you like, whether it be devotion to Hari, servantship to Hari, freedom from old age, freedom from death, I will grant that to you. Quite an extraordinary offer from him, given that almost always Brahma, even in such cases, refuses to grant true freedom from death. But in this case, of course, he recognizes that he's addressing an avatar of Lakshmi. Tulasi said, Father, I now speak to you my mind. Here, what is the use of hiding away my views out of fear or shame to one who knows everything reigning in one's heart? I am Tulasi Gopi. I used to dwell before in the Goloka. I was a dear maidservant of Radhika, the beloved of Krishna. I was also born of her, in part. Her Sakis used to love me. Her Sakis are her female friends. Once in Rasa Mandalam, I was enjoyed by Govinda, but I was not satiated. And while I was lying down in an unconscious state, Radha, the governess-in-chief of the Rasa Mandalam, came there and saw me in that state. She rebuked Govinda and out of anger cursed me to go at once and be born as a human being. At this, Govinda spoke to me and said, if you go and practice tapas in Bharata, Brahma will get pleased and he will grant you a boon. When you will get Narayana, the four-armed, born of me in part, as your husband. O father, thus speaking, Sri Krishna disappeared out of sight. Out of fear of Radha, I quitted my body and am now born in this world. Now grant me this boon that I get the peaceful, lovely, beautiful Narayana for my husband. Brahma said, O child Tulasi, the Gopa Sudama was born of Sri Krishna's body. At the present time, he is very energetic. He too, under the curse of Radha, has come and taken his birth amongst the Danavas. He is, in his present birth, he is named Shankachura. No one is equal to him in strength. In Goloka, when he saw you before, he was overpowered with passion for you. Only out of Radha's influence he could not embrace you. That Sudama is Jati Smara, or he remembers his past lives. And you too are Jati Smara. There is nothing unknown to you. O beautiful one, in accordance with the foreordained karma, you will now be his wife. Afterwards, you will get Narayana, the beautiful and lovely, for your husband. Thus, under the curse of Narayana, you will be transformed to fulfill the curse that already exists. You will be transformed into the world-purifying Tulasi plant. You shall then be the foremost amongst flowering plants, and will be dearer to Narayana than his own life. No one's worship of Narayana will be complete without thy leaf. You will remain as a plant in Vrindavana, and you will be widely known as Vrindavani. The Gopas and Gopis will worship Madhava with your leaves. Being the presiding deity of the Tulsi plant, You will always enjoy the company of Krishna, the best of the Gopas. O Narada, thus hearing these words of Brahma, the Devi Tulasi became very glad. A smile appeared on her face. She then bowed down to the Creator and said, O Father, I speak now truly to thee that I am not as devoted to the four-armed Narayana as I am devoted to Shyama Sundara, the two-armed. For my intercourse with Govinda Sri Krishna was suddenly interrupted and my desire was not satisfied. It is because of Sri Govinda's words that I prayed for the four-armed. Now it appears certain that by thy grace I will get again my Govinda, very hard to be attained. But, O Father, do this in such a way that I be not afraid of Radha. Brahma said, O child, I now give you the 16-lettered Radha mantra. By her grace, you will be as dear to Radha as her life. Radhika will not be able to know anything of your secret dealings. O fortunate one, you will be as dear to Govinda as Radha. Thus saying, Brahma, the creator of the world, taught her the 16-lettered Radha mantra, Radha stotra, Radha kavacha, and Radha vidhi, or the mode of Radha's worship, and Purascharana, and he blessed her. Tulasi then engaged herself in worshipping Radha, as directed by Brahma. By the boon of Brahma, Tulasi attained Siddhi like Lakshmi. Out of the power of the Siddha mantra, she got her desired boon. She became fortunate in getting various pleasures hard to be attained in this world. Her mind became quiet. All the toils of tapasya disappeared. When one gets the fruit of one's labor, all the troubles of the labor then transform to happiness. She then finished her food and drink, and slept on a beautiful bed strewn with flowers and scented with sandal paste. Here ends the 17th chapter of the 9th book on Tulasi Leela in Srimad Devi Bhagavatam of 18,000 verses by Maharshi Veda Vyasa. Chapter 18. Narayana said, this of course being the sage Narayana, different from, well, an avatar of the deity Narayana. Thus highly pleased, Tulasi went to sleep with a gladdened heart. She, the daughter of Vrashadhvaja, was then in her blooming youth, even though she was many tens of thousands of years old. And while asleep, the Kamadeva, the god of 5 arrows, shot at her 5 arrows, by which one gets enchanted with a sensory infatuation. Though the Devi was smeared with sandal paste and she slept on a bed strewn with flowers, her body felt as if it was being burnt. Out of joy, the hairs stood on their ends all over her body. Her eyes were reddened and her body began to quiver. Sometimes she felt uneasiness, sometimes dryness, sometimes she got faint, sometimes she felt drowsiness, and sometimes again pleasantness. Sometimes she became conscious, sometimes sorrowful. Sometimes she got up from her bed, sometimes she sat, and sometimes she fell again to sleep. A flower bed strewn with sandal paste seemed to her full of thorns. Nice, delicious fruits and cold water seemed to her like poison. Her house appeared to her like a hole in the ground, and her fine garments seemed to her like fire. A mark of sindura on her forehead appeared as it were a boil, a sore. She began, in other words, just she felt tormented and restless constantly. She began to see in her dreams a beautiful, well-clothed, humorous young man with a smile on his lips appearing to her. His body was besmeared with sandal paste and decked with excellent jewels. Garlands of forest flowers were hanging from his neck. Coming there, he was drinking the honey of her lotus face. He was speaking to her on themes of love and on various other sweet topics. As if he were embracing her amorously and enjoying the pleasures of intercourse. After intercourse, he was going away. This is still in her dreams. Again, he was coming near. She was addressing him. "Oh, darling, oh, Lord of my heart, where do you go? Come close." Again, when she became conscious and woke from these dreams, she began to lament bitterly. Thus, on entering in her youth, the Devi Tulasi began to live in the Badrikashrama. On the other hand, the great yogi Shankarchura, uh, who remember is a Danava, a great Asura yogi, Shankarchura, obtained the Krishna mantra from Maharshi Jaigishavya and got the Siddhi of the Krishna mantra in Pushkara Tirtha, the sacred place of Pushkara. Holding on his neck the Sarva Mangala Maya Kavacha, or the holy protection, and obtaining the boon from Brahma as he desired, he came to Badri by Brahma's command. The signs of blooming youth had just begun to be visible in the body of Shankarchura, as if the Kamadeva incarnated in his body. His color resembled that of white champakas, and all his body was decked with jeweled ornaments. His face resembled the autumnal full moon. His eyes were elongated like lotus leaves in shape. That beautiful form was seen to sit in an excellent aerial vimana made of pearls and jewels. Two jewel earrings, nice and elegant, suspended, hung down to his cheek. His neck was adorned with parijata flower garlands, and his body was smeared with kumkum and scented sandal paste. O Narada, seeing Shankarchura, the handsome man of her, literally the handsome man of her dreams, coming near to her, Tulsi covered her face with her clothing, and she, with a smiling countenance, repeatedly cast sidelong glances on him and bent her head low, abashed in the expectation of a fresh intercourse. How beautiful was that clear face of hers! It put the autumnal moon in the background. The invaluable jeweled ornaments were on her toes. Her braid of hair was surrounded by sweet-scented malati garlands. The invaluable jeweled wonderful earrings like the shape of a shark were hanging up to her cheek. Extraordinarily beautiful necklaces were seen being, when it says in the shape of a shark, it's referring to makara earrings. So the same style of earring that often it gets translated as crocodile or alligator, refers to like a makara as a sea monster or water monster. Extraordinarily beautiful necklaces were visible, suspended to the middle of her breasts and added to the beauty thereof. On her arms and hands were jeweled bangles and conch ornaments, jeweled armlets, and on her fingers excellent jeweled rings were seen. O Muni, seeing that lovely, beautiful, chaste woman of good nature, Shankarchura came to her and taking his seat addressed her as follows. O proud one, O auspicious one, who are you? Whose daughter are you? You look fortunate and blessed among women. I am your silent slave. Talk with me. That beautiful-eyed Tulsi, full of love, replied to Shankarchura with a smiling countenance and face bent low. I am the daughter of the Maharaja Vrashadhvaja. I have come to this forest for tapasya and am engaged in this. Who are you? What business have you to talk with me? You can go away wherever you like. I have heard in the Shastras that persons born of a noble family never speak with ladies of a respectable family in privacy. Only those that are lewd, void of any knowledge in the Dharma Shastras, void of the Vedic knowledge, and who are not kulinas, like to speak with women in privacy. And those women, too, that look externally beautiful, but very passionate, and the death of men, who are sweet-tongued but filled with venom in their hearts, those who are sweet externally but like a sword internally, those that are always bent in achieving their own selfish ends, and those that become obedient to their husbands for their own selfish ends, otherwise behaving as they like, those that are filled inside with dirty things and outside looking pleasant in their faces and eyes, whose characters are pronounced as defiled, what intelligent, learned, and noble-minded man can trust them? Those women do not discriminate who are their friends or who are their enemies. They always want new persons. Whenever they see a man well dressed, they want to satisfy their own passions, and they pretend with great care that they are very chaste. They are vessels of passion. They attract always the minds of others, and they are very enthusiastic in satisfying their own lust. They verbally show that they want other men to go away, but in their hearts Feelings for intercourse remain preponderant. Whenever they see their paramours in private, they laugh and become very glad, but externally their shame knows no bounds. When they do not have intercourse with their paramours, they become self-conceited, their bodies burn with anger, and they begin to quarrel. When their passions are satisfied fully, they become glad, and when there is a deficiency in it, they become sorrowful. For the sake of good and sweet food and cold drinks, they want beautiful young persons, qualified and humorous. In other words, they um, use men for material gain rather than genuine regard. They consider witty young persons, clever and holding intercourse, more dearly than their own sons. And if that beloved one becomes incapable or aged, then he is cast off as an enemy. Quarrels and anger then ensue. They devour these men like serpents eat rats. They are boldness personified and the source of all evils and vices. Even Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesha remain deluded before them and cannot find out any clue of their minds. They are the greatest obstacle on the path of tapasya and closed doors to liberation. Devotion to Hari cannot reach such women. They are the repositories of Maya, and they hold men fast by iron chains in this world. They are like magicians and false like dreams. They enchant others by external beauty. Their lower parts are very ugly and filled with excrements, feces of foul scent, and very unholy and smeared with blood. The Creator Bhagavan has created them as such, the Maya to the Mayavis and the venom to those who want liberation, and as invisible to those that want to have them. Thus saying, Tulsi stopped, evidently testing what Shankarchuda will respond to this. O Narada, Shankarchuda then smilingly addressed her as follows. O Devi, what you have spoken is not wholly false. Partly it is true, and partly it is false. Now here, the Creator has created this all-enchanting female form in two parts. One is praiseworthy and the other is not. He has created Lakshmi, Saraswati, Durga, Savitri, and Radha, and others as the primary causes of creation. So there are the prime creations. Those women that are born of their parts are auspicious, glorious, and much praiseworthy. Shatarupa, Devahuti, Svadha, Swaha, Dakshina, Chayavati, Rohini, Varunani, Shachi, the wife of Kubera, her name is Bhadra, Diti Aditi, Lopamudra, Anasuya, Kotabhi, or also known as Kotari, Tulasi, he names her in here, Ahalya, Arundhati, Mena, Tara, Mandodari, Damayanti, Vedavati, Ganga, Manasa, Pushti, Tushti, Smriti, Medha, Kalika, Vasundhara, Sashti, Mangalachandi, Murti, the wife of Dharma, Svasti, Shraddha, Shanti, Kanti, Kshanti, Nidra, Tandra, Shudha, Vipasa, Sandhya, Ratri, Diva, Sampatti, Dhriti, Kirti, Kriya, Shobha, Prabhu, Shiva, and other women born of the prime prakritis or paraprakritis are all excellent in every yuga. The prostitutes of the heavens, or apsaras, are also born of the above women in their anshas and anshanshas, or parts of parts. They are not praiseworthy in the universe. They are all regarded as unchaste women. Those women, now, notably, he may say that, they are widely praised in many of the scriptures. Those women that are of sattva gunas are all excellent and endowed with influence. In the universe, they are good, chaste, and praiseworthy. This is not false. The pundits declare them excellent. Those that are of rajogunas and tamogunas are not so praiseworthy. Those women that are of rajogunas are known as middling. They're always fond of enjoyments, yield to the enjoyments, and are always ready to achieve their own ends. These women are generally insincere, delusive, and outside the pale of dharmic duties. Therefore, they are generally considered unchaste. The pundits consider such women as middling. Those women that are predominantly of tamogunas are considered as worst. Those born of noble families and never speak with other wives in a private place or when they are alone. By Brahma's command I have come to you. O fair one, I will marry you now according to the Gandharva method. My name is Shankarchuda. The Devas fly away from me out of terror, since remember he is an Asura and an enemy of the Devas. Before, I was the intimate Shakha, or the friend of Sri Hari by the name of Sudama. Now, by Radhika's curse, I am born in the family of the Danavas. I was a Parishad, attendant of Sri Krishna, the chief of the 8 Gopas. Now, by Radhika's curse, I am born as Shankarchuda, the Indra of the Danavas, or Lord of the Danavas. By Sri Krishna's grace and by his mantra, I am Jati Smara. I remember my past lives. You too are Jati Smara Tulasi. Sri Krishna enjoyed you before. By Radhika's anger, you are now born in Bharata. I was very eager to enjoy you then. Out of fear of Radhika, I could not. Thus saying, Shankarchuda stopped. Then Tulsi gladly and smilingly replied, Such persons like you are famous in this world. Good women desire such husbands. Really, I am now defeated by you in argument. The man who is conquered by a woman is very impure and blamed by the community. The Pitri Lokas, the Deva Lokas, and the Gandharva Loka too look upon men overpowered by women as mean, despicable. Even father, mother, brother, etc. hate them mentally. It is said in the Vedas that the impurities during birth and death are expiated by a 10 days observance for Brahmanas. So in other words, the impurity resulting from childbirth or from a death in the family. For Brahmins, observe a 10-day period of family impurity. 12 days observance for Kshatriyas, 15 days observances for the Vaishyas, and 1 month's observances for the Shudras, and other types of Varanas. But the impurity of the man who is conquered by women cannot be expiated by any other means except being burnt in the funeral pyre. The Pitris never willingly accept the pindas and tarpanas offered by such men, so much so that the Devas even hesitate to accept flowers and water, etc., offered by them on their names. Those whose hearts are entirely subdued by men do not acquire any fruits from their knowledge, tapasya, japam, panchayagnas, worship, learning, and fame. I tested you to ascertain your strength and learning. It is highly advisable to choose one's husband by examining his merits and defects. Sin equivalent to Brahmahatya is committed if one gives in marriage one's daughter to one void of all qualifications, to an old man, to one who is ignorant, to a poor, illiterate, diseased, ugly, very angry, very harsh, lame or limbless, deaf, dumb, inanimate-like, or impotent man. If one gives in marriage a daughter to a young man of good character, learned, well qualified, and of peaceful temper, one acquires the fruits of performing 10 Ashvamedha yajnas. This is again, of course, using these rewards to illustrate a general point, as has been done throughout the 9th book. If one nourishes and raises a daughter and then sells her out of greed for money, sells one's daughter like a slave, one falls into the Kumpipaka hell. That sinner drinks the urine and eats the excrements of that daughter, remaining in that hell for a period equal to 14 lives of Indra. The one who sells their own daughter into slavery is bitten by worms and crows. And at the expiry of this period, they will have to be born back into this world of men as a person born with a disease. In their human births, they will have to earn their livelihood by selling flesh and carrying flesh. Thus saying, when Tulasi stopped, Brahma appeared on the scene and addressed Shankarchuda. O Shankarchuda, why are you uselessly spending your time in vain talks with Tulsi? Marry her soon by the Gandharva method. As you are a gem amongst men, so is she a gem amongst females. It is a very happy union between a humorous lover and a humorous beloved. O Raja, who despises the great happiness when it is at one's hand? He who forsakes such pleasure is worse than a beast in this world. O Tulsi, and what for are you testing the nobly qualified person who is the tormentor of the Devas, Asuras, and Danavas? O child, as Lakshmi Devi is of Narayana, as Radhika is of Krishna, as is my Savitri, as Bhavas is Bhavani, as Varahas is Bhumi, as Yajnas is Dakshina, Atris Anasuya, Gautama and Ahalya, Chandra and Rohini, Brahaspati and Tara, Manu and Shatarupa, Kandarpa and Rati, Kashyapa and Aditi, Vashishta and Arundhati, Kardama and Devahuti, Agni and Swaha, Indra and Shachi, Ganesha and Pushti, Skanda and Devasena, and Dharma and Murti, so let you be the dear wife of Shankarchuda, that you remain with Shankarchuda, beautiful as he is, for a long time, and enjoy with him in various places as you like. When Shankarchuda will quit his mortal frame, you will go to Goloka and enjoy easily with the two-armed Sri Krishna, and in Vaikunta with the four-armed Krishna, and with great gladness. Here ends the 18th chapter of the 9th book on the union of Shankarchuda with Tulsi in the Mahapuranam Srimad Devi Bhagavatam of 18,000 verses by Maharshi Veda Vyasa. Chapter 19. Narada said, O Bhagavan, wonderful is the story that has now been recited by you. My ears are not satisfied, so tell me what happened afterwards. Narayana said, O Narada, the creator Brahma, blessing them, departed to his own abode. The Danava Shankarchuda married Tulsi under the Gandharva method. The Gandharva method of marriage is basically just have sex in the woods and say you're married. The celestial drum sounded and the flowers were showered. In the beautiful, lovely house, the Danavendra remained in perfect enjoyment, in Tulsi's house. Tulsi, too, being busy with fresh intercourses, became almost mad after them. The chaste Tulsi and Shankarchuda both became deeply immersed in the ocean of bliss in their sexual union, and began to enjoy 64 sorts of amorous sports. In the Kama Shastras, all the connections of limbs with limbs that are described as the lover and beloved desire, they both enjoyed these with perfect freedom and pleasure. The place was solitary. To add to it, the scenery was grand and lovely. So nothing remained untasted of the several tastes of amorous pleasures. On the banks of the river, it's the Alakananda River, it flows through that valley. In flower gardens, they slept on flower beds smeared with sandal paste and enjoyed amorous pleasures. Both were adorned with jewel ornaments. Both were skilled in amorous practices, so no one desisted. The chaste Tulsi, out of her nimbleness due to young age, keep in mind she's tens of thousands of years old, easily stole into the heart of her husband. Shankarchuda, too, a great expert in knowing others' amorous sentiments, attracted the heart of Tulsi. Tulsi wiped the sandal marks from the breast of the Raja and the sign of tilak from his nose. The Raja also wiped away the dot of sindur and alaka marks from Tulsi's forehead and put marks of his nails on her round, plump breasts. Tulsi also hurt the Raja's left side by her bracelets. The Raja bit the lips of Tulsi. Thus each one embraced the other, kissed each other, and each one began to shampoo the thighs and legs of each other in bathing, etc. When both of them thus spent their time in amorous sports, they got up and began to dress themselves as they desired. Tulsi smeared Shankarchuda's nose with red sandal paste mixed with kumkum, smeared his body with sweet-scented sandal paste, offered sweet-scented beetles in his mouth, made him put on celestial garments that were fireproof, put around his neck a wonderful garland of parijata flowers, destructive of disease and old age, invaluable jeweled rings on his hand, and offering him excellent gems rare in the three worlds, said, O Lord, I am your maidservant, and uttering this repeatedly bowed down to the feet of her husband with devotion. She then got up and with smiling countenance began to look on his face with a steadfast gaze. Raja Shankarchuda then drew his dear Tulsi to his breast and took off the veil fully from her face and began to gaze on her face. The next moment he kissed on her cheek and lips and gave her a pair of garments brought from Varuna's house, a necklace of jewels hard to get in the three worlds, the tinklets or tinkling anklets of Svaha, the wife of Agni. These are um, various loot he has captured in conquest, being the Lord of Asuras. The Keyura armlets of Surya's wife Chaya, the two earrings of Rohini, the wife of Chandra, the finger rings of Rati, the wife of Kamadeva, and the wonderfully beautiful conch given by Vishvakarma, excellent bedding stuffed with pearls and jewels and various ornaments. And when he gave her all these things, he smiled. The Raja then put garlands on Tulsi's braid of hair, nicely variegated alakas on her cheek, drew 3 crescent lines of sweet-scented sandal paste within the alakar, dots of saffron all around that, the brilliant sindura mark looking like a flame, and red alta on the feet and toes. He then placed her feet on his breast and uttered repeatedly, "I am your servant," then held her on his chest. They then left the ashrama in that state and began to travel in various places. They traveled to the Malaya mountain, in mountains after mountains, in solitary flower gardens, in the mountain caves, on beautiful sea beaches, on the banks of the Pushpabhadra River, cool with watery breeze, in various rivers and riversides, in the Vishpananda forest, echoing with sweet songs of the birds in the spring season. They then went from Vishpandana forest to the Surasana forest, from the Surasana forest to the Nandana forest, from the Nandana forest to the nice Chandana forests, from Chandana forest to Champaka, Ketaki, Madhavi, Kunda, Malati, and Kumuda and lotus forests. Thence they went to the forest of Kalpavriksha and Parijata trees. And they went to a solitary place, Kanchan, thence to the Kanchi forest. Then they went to the Kinjalaka forest, thence to the Kanchanakara forest. Or, sorry, that's not a forest. Kanchanakara, they visited a gold mine. Thence to Kanchuka and various other forests, echoing with the sweet sounds of birds. There, on beds strewn with flowers and scented with sandal paste, they both enjoyed each other to their heart's content and with great pleasure. But neither of them, Shankarchuda nor Tulasi, got their thirst quenched. Rather, their passions were inflamed, like fire on which ghee is poured. The Raja of the Danavas then brought Tulsi back to his own kingdom, and there, so his own kingdom would be down into the Patalas. And there, in his own beautiful garden house, he incessantly enjoyed her. Thus, the powerful Raja of the Danavas passed away an entire Manvantara in the enjoyment of his kingdom. He spread his sway over the Devatas, Asuras, Danavas, Gandharvas, Kinnaras, and Rakshasas. The Devas, dispossessed of their realms, wandered everywhere like beggars. Also, it's possible that by his kingdom is meant Svargaloka. At last they united in a body and went to the assembly of Brahma, and there they began to cry and then related the whole history, how the Danava Shankarchuda oppressed them. Hearing all this, Brahma took them to Shankara and informed him of the whole history of the case. When Mahadeva heard all this, he took them all to the highest place of Vaikunta, devoid of old age and death. Going towards the first entrance of Narayana's abode, they saw the gatekeepers watching the gate, taking their seats on jewel thrones. They all looked brilliant, the gatekeepers of Vaikunta, clothed with yellow garments, adorned with jewel ornaments, garlanded with forest flowers, all of Shyama Sundara bodies, very beautiful dark blue bodies, similar to Vishnu's. They were four-armed, holding on their hands conch, in their hands conch, mace, disc, and lotus. Sweet smiles were on their faces, and their eyes were beautiful like lotus leaves. On Brahma asking them for entrance to the assembly, they nodded their assent. Brahma then, accompanied by the Devas, passed one by one through 16 gates, and at last came before Narayana. On reaching there, Brahma saw that the assembly was completely filled with Devarishis and four-armed Narayana-like Parishadas. So, in other words, Narayana's attendants resembled him, decked with Kaustubha jewels. The sight of the Sabha, the royal assembly, makes one think that the moon has just risen, shedding effulgent rays all around. By the will of Sri Hari, excellent diamonds, invaluable gems, and necklaces of gems and jewels were placed at various places. At other places, rows of pearls were shedding their splendor and brilliance, like the garlands of gems and jewels. At others, mirrors were placed in a circle, and at various other places, endless wonderful artistic picture lines were drawn. Again, at other places, the type of jewels called padmaragas were artistically arranged as if lotuses were there spreading their lustrous beauty all around. At many other places, rows of steps were made of wonderful syamantaka jewels, which are magical rubies. All around the assembly, there were excellent pillars built of Indra Nilam jewels. Over those pillars, sandal leaves strung on strings from pillar to pillar were suspended. Golden jars, all brimful with water, were located at various places. All around, the garlands of parijata flowers were seen. The hall was decorated with sweet-scented sandal trees, red like saffron and musk. Sweet scents were being emitted all round. The vidyadharis were dancing at places. The assembly hall measured 1,000 yojanas. Countless servants were engaged all over on various works. Brahma, Shankara, and the other gods saw their Sri Hari seated in the center on an invaluable jewel throne, as the moon looks surrounded by stars. There was a crown on his head, earrings on his ears, garlands made of wildflowers were on his neck, and his body was smeared all over with sandal paste, and he was holding a Kali Padma lotus in his hand. He was seeing, with a smiling countenance, the dancing and music before him. He was full of peace, the Lord of Sarasvati. Lakshmi was gently holding his lotus feet, and he was chewing the sweet-scented beetle offered by her. Ganga also was fanning him devotedly with a white chamara, and the others were singing hymns to him with their heads bent low with devotion. Brahma and the other gods all bowed down to him. Their bodies were all filled with pulaka, which is the joy so intense that one's hair stands on end. Tears flowed from their eyes, and their voices were choked with emotion. The creator Brahma then, with clasped hands, informed Narayana, with head bowed down, of the whole history of Shankarchuda. Hearing this, the omniscient Hari, knowing the minds of all, smiled and spoke to Brahma these interesting secrets. O lotus-born, I know all about Shankarchuda. He was, in his previous birth, my great devotee, an energetic Gopa. Now I speak to you this ancient history from Goloka. Here, this story from Goloka is sin-destroying and highly meritorious. Shankarchuda in his previous birth was the Gopa Sudama, my chief parishad, my chief attendant in Goloka. He has now become a Danava on account of a dire curse pronounced by Sri Radha. One day, when I went from my abode, accompanied by Viraja Gopi to the Rasa Mandala, my beloved Radha, hearing this news from a maidservant, came up at once with her whole host of Sakis, wrathful, to the Rasa Mandalam, and not being able to see me, saw Viraja and turned her into a river. She thought that I had disappeared, so she went back to her own abode with her Sakis. But when I returned to the house with Sudama, Radha rebuked me very much. I remained silent, but Sudama could not hear such harsh language against me, and he rebuked Radha in my presence, a thing quite intolerable to her dignity. On hearing Sudama's rebuke, Radha's eyes became red with anger, and she immediately ordered her Sakis to drive him away. Sudama began to tremble with fear. Immediately on her command, lakhs and lakhs of Sakis sprang up immediately and drove that hot, irresistible Sudama away. Sudama repeated his chafings and roarings. On hearing these, she cursed him. He'd better be born in the womb of a Danavi. Hearing this terrible curse, Sudama bowed down to me and went away crying. Then Radha, who was all mercy, became melted with mercy, and she prevented him repeatedly and told him not to go. Radha wept and told him, "Oh, child, wait, where are you going? You will not have to go. Come back." Thus saying, she became very distressed. The Gopas and Gopis also began to weep. I then explained to him About half a moment, Sudama will come back, having fulfilled the conditions of the curse. So Sudama, come here when the curse expires. Then he appeased Radha also. Know that one kshan, one moment in Goloka is equal to a manvantara on earth. The yogi Shankarchuda, expert in Maya and very powerful, will soon return from the earth. Take this, my weapon, Shula, and go early to Bharata. Shiva will slay the Danava by this Shulastra. The Danava holds always on his neck my auspicious Kavacha, and will therefore become the conqueror of the universe. No one will be able to kill him as long as he holds this mystic armor. So first of all, I will go to him in the form of a Brahmana and ask from him the Kavacha. O Creator, thou also didst give him the boon that his death would occur when the chastity of his wife would be destroyed. I will go and hold intercourse with his wife. Then his death will occur without fail. His wife after her death will come and become my dearest wife. Thus saying, Narayana gave over to Mahadeva the Shulastra, the weapon which can kill Shankarchuda. Then he went gladly to his inner apartments. On the other hand, Brahma, Rudra, and the other devas incarnated themselves in Bharata. Here ends the 19th chapter on the going of the devas to Vaikuntha after Tulsi's marriage with Shankarchuda and the Mahapuranam Srimad Devi Bhagavatam of 18,000 verses by Maharshi Veda Vyasa. Chapter 20. Narayana said, Brahma, then putting Shiva to the task of killing Shankarchuda, went to his own abode. The other devas returned to their homes. Here, under the beautiful Vata tree on the banks of the river Chandrabhaga, Mahadeva pitched a big tent and encamped himself to get the victory of the devas. He then sent Chitrarata, the lord of the Gandharvas, as a messenger to Shankarchuda, the lord of the Danavas. By the command of Mahadeva, Chitrarata went to the city of the Raja of the Daityas, more beautiful than Indra's, and more wealthy than the mansion of Kubera. The city was 5 yojanas wide and twice that in length. It was built of crystals, pearls, and jewels. There were roadways on all sides. There were 7 trenches, hard to be crossed, one after another, encircling the city. The city was built of countless rubies and other gems, brilliant like flames. There were hundreds of roadways and markets and stalls in the wonderful Vedis, or raised platform altars built of jewels. All around were splendid palatial buildings of traders and merchantmen filled with various articles. There were hundreds and kotis of beautiful buildings adorned with various ornaments and built of variegated red stones looking like sindura. Thus he went on and saw in the middle the building of Shankarchuda, circular like the lunar sphere. 4 ditches, all filled with fiery flames, encircled his house one after another, so that enemies could not in any way cross them, but a friend could easily go there, for the flames would part at Shankarchuda's will. On the top were seen turrets built of jewels rising high to the heavens. The gatekeepers were watching the 12 gates. In the center were situated lakhs and lakhs of excellent jewel-built houses. In every room there were jeweled steps and staircases, and the pillars were all built of gems and jewels and pearls. Pushpadanta, that's another name of Chitrarata. Literally, Pushpadanta means flower eater. Saw all this and then went to the first gate and saw. It's actually interesting why Chitrarata is called Pushpadanta. Gandharvas, part of why they're called Gandharvas, which means Gandhar refers to scent. Gandharvas eat scent. They subsist by through imbibing aromas. And so Pushpadanta literally means flower tooth, but what it refers to is one who gets nourishment from flowers by smelling flowers. He saw all this. Then he went to the first gate and saw there a terrible person, copper-colored with tawny eyes, sitting with a trident in his hand and with a smiling countenance. He told he had come as a messenger and was given entrance. Thus Chitrarata went one after another to all the entries, not being prohibited at all, since he told that he had come as a messenger on war service, a military envoy. The Gandharva reached one after another and finally reached the last door and said, O Dvarpala, O doorkeeper, go quickly and inform the Lord of the Danavas all about the impending war, that he has come bringing a declaration of war from an enemy. When the messenger had spoken thus, the gatekeeper allowed him to go inside. Going inside, the Gandharva saw Shankarchuda himself, of an excellent form, seated in the middle of the royal assembly, on a golden throne. One servant was holding on the Raja's head an umbrella decked with, or above his head, an umbrella decked with divine excellent gems, the inner rod of the umbrella being made up of jewels and decorated with expanding artificial flowers made of gems. Attendants were fanning him with beautiful white chamaras. He was nicely dressed, beautiful and lovely, and adorned with jewel ornaments. He was nicely garlanded and wore fine celestial garments. 3 Koti Danavas were surrounding him, and 7 Koti Danavas, all armed, were walking to and fro. Pushpadanta was thunderstruck when he saw thus the Danava, and he addressed him thus, O Raja, I am a servant of Shiva. My name is Pushpadanta. Hear what Shiva has commanded me to tell you. You better now give back to the Devas the rights that they had before. The Devas went to Srihari and had taken his refuge. Srihari gave over to Shiva a Shulastra and asked the Devas to depart. At present, the three-eyed Deva, Shiva, is residing under the shade of a Varta tree on the banks of the Pushpabhadra river. He told me to tell you, either give over to the Devas their rights or fight with me. Please reply, and I will speak to him accordingly. Shankarchoda, hearing the messenger's words, laughed and said, Tomorrow morning I will set forth ready for war. You had better go today. The messenger went back to Shiva and replied to him accordingly. In the meantime, the following personages joined Shiva and remained seated on excellent aerial vimanas built of gems and jewels. The following were the persons who rallied to Shiva's army. Skanda, his son, Virabhadra, Nandi, Mahakala, Subhadraka, Vishalaksha, Bana, Pingalaksha, Vikampana, Virupa, Vikriti, Manibhadra. These are all various Ganas and Yakshas and commanders of Shiva's army. Vaskala, Kapilaksha, Dirghadhangstra, Vikata, Tamralochana, Kalakanta, Balibhadra, Kalajivha, Kuttichara, Valonmatta, Ranashlagi, Durjaya, Durgama. So those were the 8 Bhairavas, the 11 Rudras, the 8 Vasus, Indra, and the 12 Adityas, Agni, Chandra, Vishvakarma, the 2 Ashvins, Kubera, Yama, Jayanta, the son of Indra, Nalakubara, Yaksha king, Vayu, Varuna, Buddha, Mangala, Dharma, Shani, Ishana, the powerful Kamadeva, Ugra Damstra, Ugra Chanda, Otara, Kaithabhi, and the 8-armed terrible Devi Bhadrakali. Kali wore blood-red clothings, and she smeared red sandal paste all over her body. Dancing, laughing, singing songs in tune, very jolly, Kali bids her devotees discard all fear and terrifies their enemies. Her lip is terrible, lolling, and extends to 1 yojana. On her 8 arms she holds a conch, disc, mace, lotus, axe, skin, bow, and arrows. The skin is usually an elephant skin. She was further holding in her hands a human skull shaped into a bowl that was very deep and 1 yojana wide. Her trident reached up to the heavens. Her Shakti spear was a 1 yojana long. Besides, she also had a mace, a club, the Vajra lightning weapon, Kirta, another type of club, brilliant shield. She wielded the Vaishnavastra, the Varunastra, the Agnayastra, the Nagapasha, the Narayanastra, the Gandharva's weapons, Brahma's weapons, the Garudastram, the Parjanyastram, the thundercloud weapon, the Pashupatastram, and the Dhrimbhanastram, the Parvatastram, the Maheshwarastram, the Vayavyastram, and the Sanmohanam rod, and various other infallible divine weapons. Besides these, hundreds of other divine weapons were in her possession. 3 kotis of yoginis and 3 kotis and a half of terrible dakinis were attending Bhadrakali as her army. Bhutas, Pretas, Pishachas, Kushmandas, Brahma Rakshasas, normal Rakshasas, Vetalas, Yakshas, and Kinnaras also were there in countless numbers. At this time, Kartikeya came forward and bowed down to his father Mahadeva. He asked him to take his seat on his left side. Mahadeva asked his son Kartikeya to take a seat on his left side and ask him to help him in the battle. Then the army remained there, drawn up in military array. On the other hand, when Shiva's messenger departed from Shankarchuda, Shankarchuda went to the Zenana and informed, or to his wife's apartments, and informed Tulsi of the news of an impending war. No sooner she heard this than her throat and lips and palate became dried with apprehension. She then spoke with a sorrowful heart in these sweet words. "O my lord, my friend, ruler of my life, wait for a moment and take your seat on my heart. Instill life in me for a moment. Satisfy my desire of human birth. Let me behold you fully so that my eyes be satisfied. My breath is now very agitated. I saw at the end of the night a bad dream. Therefore I feel an internal burning." Thus, at the words of Tulsi, Raja Shankarchuda finished his meals and then began to address her in good and true words beneficent to her. "O my lady, it is Kala, time, that brings out these various combinations by which the karmic fruit is enjoyed. It is time that awards auspicious and inauspicious things. This time is the sole master to impart pain, fear, and good and bad things. Trees grow up in time, their branches come out in time, flowers appear in time, and fruits come out in their time. Fruits are ripened in time, and after giving the fruits, they die out also in time. O fair one, the universe comes into existence in time and dies away in time. The creator, preserver, and destroyer of the universe are creating, preserving, and destroying the worlds with the help of time. Time guides them in every way. But the highest Prakriti is the God of Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesha. This highest Prakriti, the highest divinity, is creating, preserving, and destroying this universe. She makes time dance. By her mere will, she has converted her inseparable Prakriti into Maya, and is thus creating all things, moving and unmoving. She is the ruler of all, the form of all, and she is the highest God. By her is being done the creation of persons by persons, the preservation of persons by persons, and the destruction of persons by persons. So you had better now take refuge of the highest Lord. Know it is by her command the wind is blowing. By her command the sun is giving heat. By her command Indra is showering rains. By her command death is striving over the living beings. By her command fire is burning. And by her command the cooling moon is revolving. She is the death of death, the time of time, Yama of Yama, the burner of fire and the destroyer of the destroyer. So take her refuge. You cannot find and fix who is whose friend in the world. So pray to her, the highest God, who is the friend of all. Oh, who am I, and who are you either? The Creator is the combiner of us two, and so he will dissociate us two by our karma. When difficulty arises, ignorant fools become overwhelmed with sorrow, but the intelligent pundits do not get at all deluded or become distressed. By the wheel of time, the beings are led sometimes into happiness, sometimes into pain. You will certainly get Narayana for your husband, for which you practiced tapas before in the hermitage of Badri. I pleased Brahma by my tapasya and have by his boon got you as my wife. But the object for which you did your tapasya, that you may get Hari as your husband, will certainly be fulfilled. You will get Govinda in Vrindavana and in the region of Goloka. I will also go there when I forsake this, my asura body. Now I am talking with you here. Afterwards we will meet again in the region of Goloka. By the curse of Radhika, I have come to this Bharata, hard to be attained. You too will quit this body, and assuming divine form will go to Srihari. So, O beloved, you need not be sorry. O Muni, thus these conversations took them the whole day and led them to the evening. The Raja of the Asuras, Shankarchura then slept with Tulsi one last night on a nicely decorated bed, strewn with flowers and smeared with sandal paste, in the jeweled temple. This jeweled temple was adorned with various wealth and riches. Jeweled lamps were lighted. Shankarchura passed the night with his wife in various sports. The thin-bellied Tulsi was weeping with a very sorrowful heart without having eaten any food that day. The Raja, who knew the reality of existence, took her to his breast and appeased her in various ways. What dharmic instructions he had received in Bhandira forest from Sri Krishna, those tattvas capable to destroy all sorrows and illusions, he now spoke carefully to Tulsi. Then Tulsi's joy knew no bounds. She then began to consider everything as transient, and began to play with a gladdened heart. Both became drowned in the ocean of bliss, and the bodies of both of them were filled with joy, and their hair stood on their ends. Both of them then, desirous to have amorous sports for a final time, joined themselves and became like Ardhanarishvara in one body. As Tulsi considered Shankarchura to be her husband, so the Danava Raja considered Tulsi the darling of his life. They became senseless with pleasurable feelings arising out of their amorous intercourses. The next moment, they regained their consciousness and both began to converse on amorous matters. Thus both spent their time sometimes in sweet conversations, sometimes laughing and joking, sometimes maddened with amorous sentiments. As Shankarchura was clever in amorous affairs, so Tulsi too was very expert. So none felt satiated with love affairs, and neither was defeated by the other. Here ends the 20th chapter of the 9th book on the war preparations of Shankarchura with the Devas in the Mahapuranam Srimad Devi Bhagavatam of 18,000 verses by Maharshi Veda Vyasa. And we can end there for today. Next chapter begins the actual war.
Wow, awesome. Thank you, Devala.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
What a amazing love story, like Vedic love story, straight up.
Yeah.
Who does Shankachuda? How do you say his name?
Yeah, Shankarchura.
What, was he connected to Kashyapa or something, or what was his? He had some other, or like what was he? He was some other incarnation after that. What did he become after
Sudam,
Shankachuda?
he returned to his incarnation, well, not his incarnation, his true form as Sudama Gopa in Goloka.
Oh, eternal in the eternal form. He went back to Gopa
Yeah, yeah,
form of Krishna's best buddy.
yeah, yes.
Neat. Not to
Yep.
like give away. I don't want to like spoil the ending or anything, but
Yeah, yeah, we'll get to that.
cool.
We'll get to that next week.
Yeah. Okay. Neat. I think that's
Yeah,
and it's and at this point,
yeah.
him and
This is
Tulsi are like 50,000 years old.
more actually. Actually,
Wow.
he might be a little younger than her.
Uh-oh.
It didn't clearly give us his age, but she is considerably older than 50, closer to 100,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Um, yeah. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Dave. J-Ma.
Jai Ma.